So in the aftermath, not only was there great polling data suggesting that the American people really liked the speech overall, but even Democrats on the cable news channels were freaking out about the lackluster Democratic response. So Jake Tapper properly pointed out the Democrats just seemed to absolutely demoralize the whole night. They did. I was in the room. I was watching them the whole night. They looked as though they just wanted to crawl in a hole. They looked like they couldn't believe they had to be there, and they had no unified point of opposition. Truly amazing stuff.
You can really sense, John King, you can really sense Republicans with a pep in their step and Democrats rather demoralized. The Democrats, not to be cliche about it, but they are in disarray. They do not know how to be the opposition force.
I mean, that is right. That is totally right by Jake Tapper right there. And by the way, neither do some of the hosts. So last night, in one of the more disgusting moments, actually, MSNBC host Nicolle Wallace, she was talking about TJ Daniel, who's a 13-year-old cancer survivor. And after expressing her warm feelings for him, she then somehow turned it into a referendum on January 6th.
I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Unbelievable. That's your take? That's it? Really? That's where you went with that? Really, you guys, you're doing an amazing job. You know, Rachel Maddow flipped out, which, you know, is her usual mode. You never know whether she's going to laugh, whether she's going to cry, Rachel Maddow. I think that's kind of her resting confused face. Here we go.
For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising Doge. The Doge cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer.
Really, calm down. It's fine. He wanted to be there. The kid got to become a Secret Service agent. Like, it was good. It'll be all right, guys. You'll survive. Even Stephen Colbert was mocking the Democrats for their feeble response. He was celebrating Al Green because Stephen Colbert is such an idiot. But here was Stephen Colbert basically saying, why can't you all be Al Green? Okay. All right. It's a take.
The man barked out one appalling claim after another. But don't you worry. The Democrats came ready to fight back with their little paddles. Okay? That is how you save democracy, by quietly dissenting or bidding on an antique tea set. It was hard to tell what was going on. I'm just kidding. That was very cool, Democrats. In fact, I made my own sign.
And there's Stephen Colbert holding up a sign that says, try doing something, and to cheers. Well, they can't do anything because they lose. Apparently, President Trump's strategy here is, I win, you lose. So, and Democrats buying right into it. So slow clap for the genius Democrats. Really an amazing job.
Did you know your home could be stolen right out from under you without you ever realizing it? The FBI calls this house stealing. It's a growing scam targeting homeowners across the country. Here's how it works. Scammers only need to forge your signature on one document, add a fake notary stamp, pay a small filing fee, and submit it to your local recorder's office. Just like that, your home title gets transferred out of your name. Once they have control, they can take out loans against your equity or even sell your property behind your back. The worst part? You might not discover anything is wrong until collection notices or foreclosure warnings start showing up in your mailbox. So when was the last time you checked your home title? If you're like most people, the answer is probably never. And that's exactly what these scammers are counting on. That's why so many people, including our senior video editor, Adam, trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get. Immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. Here's the best part. I've teamed with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report. You can find out if you're already a victim and access to your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HometitleLock.com, use my promo code Shapiro250, or click on the link in the description. Make sure to check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Shapiro250. Get the protection and peace of mind you deserve.
Well, meanwhile, there were some actual controversial sections of the speech. The most controversial section of President Trump's speech was not anything about illegal immigration. It was nothing about foreign policy. It was none of those sort of hot buttons. It was the economy. So, as I've been saying for a while, I am concerned that the stock market right now is overvalued. The stock market is currently running at an outrageous PE ratio. Okay? It's the price to earnings ratio. Typically, when you're evaluating a company, when you're trying to determine how valuable a company is, the earnings, unless it has some sort of tremendous growth potential, have to be demonstrated in the stock price. And a sort of typical metric that's been used for decades is a metric first put forth by Benjamin Graham, who's a sort of mentor to Warren Buffett, that suggested that the price to earnings ratio on a company should be somewhere at the upper end in the 16 to 18 ratio. Right now, the entire Dow Jones Industrial Average is trading at a 28 ratio. That's way too high. The so-called Magnificent Seven stocks, that'd be stocks like Nvidia and Amazon and Apple, they're trading at a PE ratio that exceeds 55. Certain stocks like Tesla are trading at a PE ratio that is almost 200. Now, it may be that Tesla justifies that stock valuation by suddenly leaping forward in AI in new and unbelievable ways and totally revolutionizing the way, for example, shipping is done in the United States. I think that's one of the promises that Elon is trying to make with Tesla. However, it seems that the stock market is currently inflated. Inflation itself remains stubbornly high. In other words, there are vulnerabilities in the American economy. For sure. And we've been talking about this for, at this point, several months. And if you go back to the Biden administration, longer than that. I think there's some systemic vulnerabilities in the American economy. So President Trump is trying to do some stuff about that. One of the things he's been trying to do, which is radically revise how regulations are done, excellent. Unleash Doge to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. Great. Increase productivity by, for example, unleashing America's energy resources, which you talked about last night. Fantastic. And then there are tariffs. President Trump has talked a lot about tariffs. And last night he talked a lot about tariffs. And he's using the phrase retaliatory tariffs. Right? There are sort of two sets of tariffs that he's talked about. One is the set of tariffs that went into place this week on Canada and Mexico. And already there is some sound that those tariffs are going to be revised pretty quickly because Canada and Mexico are going to make concessions with regard to, say, fentanyl or with regard to border security that will allow the United States to then lower our tariffs. The other thing that President Trump has talked about are reciprocal tariffs. Reciprocal tariffs are the idea, as President Trump explained last night, that if a country is tariffing our goods at 20%, we should retaliate by tariffing their goods at 20%. We are a far larger market than they are. Now, if the goal of that is to leverage their tariffs down, totally in favor. That's great. We should, in fact, use our market power in order to flex on those countries and force them to lower their tariffs. If, however, the idea is that tariffs are in and of themselves an economic good for the United States, that is generally untrue. Tariffs are very good for the industries that are protected, at least for a moment. And then, when those tariffs are removed, those industries tend to be bloated and problematic. This is what happened to the American auto industry in the 1950s and 60s. We had high tariffs on foreign autos. We signed incredibly lucrative union contracts within our auto companies. Our cars became too expensive and not good enough. And then when we opened up any of those tariffs and we allowed, for example, Japanese cars like Toyota into the market, suddenly the American auto manufacturing sector just took a nosedive. Tariffs tend to protect bloated industries. And so the only purpose for tariffs that I think is legitimate is in order to get other people to lower their tariffs or as a matter of national security. That you're trying to protect industries that even if they're bloated, you need them shored in the United States. President Trump has sort of a different take on tariffs. He seems to suggest over and over and over that tariffs are actually a net benefit to the American economy overall. It's just good for the American economy, tariffs. The evidence suggests that that is not in fact the case because Americans are both producers and consumers. So again, what that means is that if you're in an industry protected by a tariff because other countries now have to, the American consumer now has to pay an inflated rate for, say, a Japanese car as opposed to an American car, that's good for an American car manufacturer for the domestic market. It is very bad for the American consumer who now has to pay a higher price. And every American is both a producer and a consumer. And so if you're not in the industry that is positively affected by the tariff, then you're just getting hurt as a consumer. And overall, if there are lots of tariffs, then everybody gets hurt more as a consumer. You end up with a restricted supply of a product while the demand remains similar. And that is a recipe for actual inflation. Now, President Trump was talking about tariffs last night. He laid out a very commonsensical case for reciprocal tariffs. Again, the question for me on a going forward basis, and we'll get more into this, is whether the emphasis in the phrase reciprocal tariffs is on the word reciprocal, meaning you lower yours and we'll lower ours, you raise yours and we'll raise ours, which again, that's a great way to leverage other countries, or if the emphasis is on tariffs, like tariffs are in and of themselves a positive, beneficial good. As I've said before, I think President Trump likes to make the case that tariffs are a positive, beneficial good, but he also could be doing that as leverage. He does this all the time. He could be saying, listen, I love tariffs so much. I love them. They're unbelievable. I'm totally willing to do it because I love them anyway. You're going to have to convince me not to do it. That's a good piece of leverage. Here's President Trump last night on tariffs.
By the way, we're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's ever seen. Plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? That, along with our other policies, will allow our auto industry to absolutely boom. It's going to boom.
Okay, so, again, that may be true in the short term. I don't think that's true in the long term. In the short term, it's good politics. Most presidents do engage in some sort of protective trade barriers around key industries in which they are seeking to win votes. It's a long-standing policy going all the way back to Ronald Reagan and before. However, it remains to be seen whether that is going to have a large negative impact on the economy if, in fact, a durable set of high tariffs are to become a regular part of the American political landscape. This is the thing that I fear most. President Trump requires a strong economy. Now, the thing I know about President Trump also is he doesn't like a weak economy. So if it turns out that the stock market takes a dump, I don't think he's going to keep sticking with the thing that is negatively affecting his presidency. He's not stubborn when it comes to actual results. He lives in the world of reality. So he is not the kind of person who just keeps banging his head against a wall, seeking to achieve a different result from the same action over and over and over.
Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.